Vanity Fair did this insane hit piece on RFK Jr. It's a long hit piece. It takes actually about 45 to 55 minutes to read this thing. So this wasn't just like a short hit piece that Vanity Fair came out with. It was a major hit piece where they basically detailed a lot of the things that are already detailed in his biographies, books that he's written about himself, experiences that we all are pretty much familiar with. We know that Robert F. Kennedy Jr., when he was young, until he was about 29 years old, was addicted to heroin. He talks about that openly. He says actually that that's one of the reasons why he would be better at combating the addiction crises that we have here in the United States. It's because he's been there, done that. He understands. He's talked about being a sex addict, having slept with multiple women when he was married, more than just multiple women. I mean, slews of women when he was married to his wife, and even sleeping with up to like 3 women a day when he was married to his wife. He talks about that in his books, but they nonetheless decided to, what I found interesting was they drag all of this out and put this in here in this Vanity Fair piece. Why and why now is the bigger question. And I think the why now is pretty obvious. And look, you might read this piece like I did, and I am concerned. I'm not going to lie. This doesn't paint the picture, which I've already, before this piece even came out, I had my reservations on. I don't think a tiger changes their stripes. I think they can do the best they can to camouflage the stripes, and maybe from genuinely, people genuinely try to change. I think they genuinely try to be better people. They genuinely, but it's a daily struggle. It's like addicts for anything. And he was a heroin addict. If you're an addict, you're always an addict. You're never going to suddenly not be an addict. That's what I mean by tigers changing their stripes. You're always going to be this addict. The question is, are you going to control it? How are you going to control it? But you're always going to have that, and you're always going to have to struggle with that when other people around you are not having to struggle with that. But I think that when I've looked into Bobby Kennedy's past with drugs, with women, and that to me is alarming. It's alarming because yes, there is some merit to the fact that a person who's gone through these experiences might be in a better position to lead the country through those same experiences. Sex addiction's not really one, though. Drug addiction, maybe. Sex addiction, not so much. The issue is that we have a country of 330 million people. There are plenty of people who are great people in this country who've never suffered with any of these addictions and temptations, and would never relapse with those addictions and temptations. And why don't we select one of those really great people to lead the country? Why are we always with these people that we can dig up all of these terrible, things in their past that are really, really terrible? And with Bobby Kennedy, it's probably more than most. But on the other side of it, he's very honest about it, and he hasn't been hiding it. So in this hit piece, I just want to point out a couple of things because it's like they still never have really learned some of the things they haven't learned. They started off by talking about a documentary that he made with his sister Rory. And the documentary was called Indian Point, Imagining the Unimaginable. It was directed by his sister, and it pits the crusading Kennedys pictured flying in a helicopter over the nuclear facility against Energy, the power company. The film argued that the surrounding environment would be made uninhabitable if the plant came under a terrorist attack. Okay. So in this piece, they detail how Rory did all this filming, and then at the end, they had to cut a bunch of parts from the film because Bobby would say some things and they ultimately couldn't verify them as facts. He'd heard them from somebody, and so they couldn't really verify it. And because they couldn't verify it, or maybe they could, but they fact checked him, is what this piece says. They fact checked him, and they ultimately decided that what he was saying was untrue. Now, okay, maybe that's true, but we also know, and what they continue to point out in this piece is that they continue to paint him as an anti-vaxxer, right? They're saying that, oh, he made all of these claims, which we now know are true. He said things that, he ended up being on the right side of history when it came to COVID and not these other people, but they're still painting him as this fringe anti-vaxxer who tells untruths. And so how do we then trust that Vanity Fair is able to then, or his sister, is able to then assess whether or not he was telling the truth about other things as well, right? Whether they were how I mean they've lost credibility in their ability to tell these things. It goes on to say that behind the scenes, his siblings, especially brothers Max, Chris, and Joseph II, are furious over his candidacy. Sisters Carrie and Rory are heartbroken, but the desire to preserve their relationship with their brother, combined with the long-standing Kennedy blood oath — they talk about a Kennedy blood oath — to protect the family reputation, has prevented them from pulling back the curtain on the RFK Jr. they know, instead choosing to focus on policy differences. So what they do in this piece is they say that his family knows that he's this dark, seedy, terrible character. But they've got this Kennedy blood oath, and they don't really talk about that stuff. And so they instead just focus on policy differences with their brother publicly, and they back Biden, and they go to the Biden White House, and they, they're supporting everybody but him. But it's because they know that he's really just this horrible human being, is what this piece says. After initially denouncing his candidacy last summer, most of the 105 Kennedy relatives, including Bobby's 8 siblings, the largest branch of the family, had hoped his campaign would collapse under the weight of his many bizarre claims and alliances with anti-vax cranks and Trump world figures like Steve Bannon and Tucker Carlson. Instead, the family has played defense, going public only when Kennedy's statements went so far out of bounds they had no choice, like when he suggested COVID was ethnically targeted to spare Jewish and Chinese people, or he claimed that anti-vaxxers suffered worse oppression than Anne Frank. He didn't say either of those things, but this is how they spin these hit pieces. And we all know why this hit piece has come out now, right? This hit piece is out now because Biden is bumbling. He's a bumbling buffoon, right? He's just losing his mind. And Kennedy is now somebody that people are looking at. He went up in the polls after the debate. Kennedy went up. He's at 20% right now. Their private efforts to get Bobby to drop out or at least wait until 2028 to run has also come to naught. I've spoken to Bobby about this race, about what's at stake, about the importance of supporting Joe Biden, of the impact of the Trump presidency on the world. Carrie Kennedy, who leads the nonprofit RFK Human Rights and is disciplined in how she speaks of her brother, tells me I was clearly unpersuasive. Asked to share insights into her brother's motives and psychology, she begs off, well, you need to have a degree, which I don't have. Loyalty has always been the highest virtue in a family that has lived for decades under the public microscope. They don't sound very loyal to me. I mean, what are they talking about? This blood oath and loyalty. And then here they are divulging all about how they want him to not run and that he's some seedy character to Vanity Fair. What kind of a blood oath and loyalty is this? Bobby risks damaging the legacies of both his father and uncle at a time when those values and ideals could not be any more important. The portrait family members paint of Bobby is a man of exceptional charm, wit, brains, and generosity, who has championed important environmental causes, but whose worst traits, an unnerving ease with blending fact and fiction, a powerful ability to deny the collateral damage of his own destructive actions, have engulfed his better angels. They point out what they call to be the misinformation, the COVID anti-vax stuff. They think that is the stuff that's getting the best of him, not the drug addiction and the sex addiction, not that. No, it's the COVID, it's the it's the untruths that he tells, the misinformation that goes up against the establishment. Here's one, this photograph. Okay, so this is the one that's making the social media rounds. This is what's going viral. There's a picture of Kennedy and somebody else here. He's eating this. He's eating this animal, right? Well, apparently he texted his friend. He was in South Korea at the time, and he texts this picture to a friend, and he suggested he's eating a dog. Okay, I'm Asian. I'm from Vietnam. I've heard this joke many times. Oh, eating dogs, right? It's like a thing against Koreans and Vietnamese. Maybe Chinese too. I don't know. I just know that for sure Vietnamese and Koreans get accused of eating dogs all the time. So I get it. It's a joke. People have made this joke to me. My friends have made this joke to me sometimes. Even I might have cracked a joke here and there about it. But this is not a dog. This is a goat. He's eating a goat. That has been verified. This is a goat, not a dog. He made a joke. And they say about this, wow, this is just sick. The picture's intent seems to have been comedic. Kennedy and his companion are pantomiming. But for the recipient, it was disturbing evidence of Kennedy's poor judgment and thoughtlessness, simultaneously mocking Korean culture, reveling in animal cruelty, and needlessly risking his reputation and that of his family. Mocking like reveling in animal cruelty. I mean, eating any meat. If you're going to go down that path, then you're just a vegan, right? I mean, I get it. Like in our society, I mean, I have a dog. My dog is just right here, and she's wonderful and lovely, and I would never eat my dog. But what is that? But really, theoretically, on the bigger picture, what is the difference between eating one animal versus another? I mean, we eat cow, we eat pig. Pigs are extremely smart. So, I mean, unless you're a vegan, right? Though he was not, which many of you are, I know, and I'm going to get emails from you because I usually do when I bring it up. Vegans, you guys are the first to, get mad, and Seventh Day Adventists. I've discovered. Though he has not responded to Vanity Fair after this story was published, Kennedy said publicly that the picture is of a goat in Patagonia, contrary to what he texts to his friend. The friend says that Kennedy sent me the picture with a recommendation to visit the best dog restaurant in Seoul. So he was certainly representing that this was a dog and not a goat. In any case, it's grotesque. So the friend, like believed this. And then when they were told, oh, it was a goat. Oh, well, it's grotesque. How dare he do this? They go down the list of a lot of the things. There were some definitely stories in this Vanity Fair piece. One in particular about a babysitter that he had named Eliza Cooney, who was a babysitter for the Kennedys. She recounted an incident with RFK Jr. where he had some very inappropriate behavior against her, sexually assaulting her, essentially, where he kind of went up behind her and started kind of groping her, that he touched her leg under the table during a meeting at one point. And then she found him in her bedroom with her diary open and standing there. And then at one point when she was in the kitchen, and when he was in the bedroom, when she discovered him there with her diary open, he asked her to rub lotion on his back. Apparently he was standing there shirtless and he asked her to rub lotion on his back. And then she also, I guess, in the pantry, he groped her. He put his hands on her hips, slid them up along her rib cage and breasts. She described feeling frozen and shocked during the assault. He was about 45. She's about 23. So that was something he's been asked about. He has decided not to comment on that from other people. He also, during his marriage to Mary, he was known to text damning images of nude women to his friends, raising concerns about whether or not they had consented to having themselves photographed. That's one thing that they're claiming on here. Also, he had a sex diary. We all know about that kind of stuff because that's been, he talked about that and having the sex diary and sleeping with a lot of different women. So this was the point is, and you could read this for yourself. Again, it's 45 to 55 minutes long. It definitely does, paint a picture of a person who's had a less than moral and less than ethical life. And that to me is concerning. Like I said, I think there's 330 million people in this country. There's plenty of great people. I think we can find the best of the best to lead our nation. I don't think we have to go to these various different people who've had, like Bill Clinton and Donald Trump and RFK Jr. and even his dad and uncle who are known for being philanderers. And, I just think we can do better in this country. I do. I think we can. But I also think this is a really, a low place for Vanity Fair to just look. Their guy isn't going to win. Joe Biden's not going to win. He shouldn't win. He's not even mentally all there. We don't even know what's going on with him. So these hit pieces are, they're just, we all see right through them. We all understand. Do we need to know about this stuff? Sure, we should know about this stuff. He's talked about this stuff. So, I don't know. It's just, we all know that they're doing this because they don't want to see him going up in the polls. They will do anything to stop anybody that's outside of the establishment. And that is exactly what they're doing. And I know that for a lot of people, these types of hit pieces make them support him more. And you might be one of them. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this clip from the full Kim Iversen show. That's right, this is just a clip. If you want the full show, you can go to KimIversonShow.com and you can watch Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern for about 1 hour. It's totally free. Check it out, KimIversonShow.com. Thanks for watching.